The silence in the grand, echoing house was no longer just the absence of noise. It was a living, breathing entity, a heavy shroud woven from unspoken words and unshed tears. For Eleanor Vance, the matriarch of a family whose life had unfolded under the unblinking eye of a decade-long documentary series, this silence was both a torment and a fragile sanctuary. It had been weeks since the world had paused, since the news of Caleb's passing had ripped through the fabric of their carefully constructed lives, leaving behind a chasm of grief that swallowed everything whole. Eleanor sat in her usual spot, by the vast bay window overlooking the sprawling Utah landscape that now seemed indifferent to their sorrow. A half-empty mug of herbal tea steamed beside her, its warmth a stark contrast to the chill that had settled deep within her bones. The public, they thought they knew. They'd seen the Vance family's triumphs and trials, their laughter and their arguments, edited and condensed into weekly segments. They'd seen the joyous chaos of a large, unconventional family, but they hadn't seen this. They hadn't seen the raw, unscripted agony that gripped them now. The whispers had started almost immediately, slithering through the digital ether like venomous snakes. Accusations, assumptions, theories about Caleb, about their family dynamics, about the circumstances of his passing. Eleanor had tried to block them out, to shield her remaining children from the vitriol, but some barbs always found their way in, lodged deep in her heart alongside her grief. The documentary crew, usually omnipresent, had respectfully retreated, leaving behind an eerie void. Yet the producers had made it clear the cameras would eventually return. The audience demanded resolution, a reckoning. Eleanor, however, demanded truth. She closed her eyes, and Caleb's face bloomed in her mind's eye. Mischievous grin, thoughtful gaze, the unruly lock of hair that always fell across his forehead. Caleb, who had always marched to the beat of his own drum, who had challenged conventions, and who, in his own quiet way, had carried the weight of being a public figure from childhood. The public commentary about his memorial service, about what it should have been, about who was there and who wasn't, had felt like a final, cruel invasion of his sacred space. They spoke of awkwardness, of forced smiles, of a lack of unity. They spoke as if they had been present, as if they knew the private contours of their sorrow. "They don't understand," Eleanor whispered to the empty room, her voice hoarse. "They couldn't possibly." The memorial had been exactly what Caleb would have wanted. Intimate, deeply personal, and filled with quiet reflections rather than grand pronouncements. It wasn't about showmanship, it was about love. Each family member had chosen to grieve in their own way, in their own time. The camera's absence had been a blessing, allowing them to truly feel, truly mourn without the pressure of performance. But the world outside, fueled by speculation and the insatiable appetite for drama, had interpreted their private grief as discord. A familiar pang of frustration tightened in Eleanor's chest. For years, she had navigated the tricky waters of public life, striving to present an authentic yet palatable version of their story. She had endured judgment, celebrated triumphs, and weathered countless storms under scrutiny. But this felt different. This was about Caleb's legacy, about ensuring his memory wasn't tarnished by the manufactured narratives of strangers. Her phone buzzed on the coffee table. It was her eldest daughter, Clara. "Mom, you saw the latest comments, right? About the service? People are saying we're falling apart, that you and Dad aren't even speaking, that Caleb was, well, you know." Eleanor sighed, the familiar weight settling on her shoulders. "I know, sweetheart, it's hard, but we know the truth. That's what matters." "But does it, Mom, when everyone else believes the lies? Caleb deserved better than this. We deserve better." Clara's voice cracked, and Eleanor could hear the raw pain beneath her daughter's frustration. A flicker of resolve ignited within Eleanor. Clara was right. Caleb deserved better. They all did. This wasn't just about protecting their privacy. It was about reclaiming their narrative, about honoring Caleb with honesty, not just silence. The urge to retreat, to pull deeper into her grief was strong, but a stronger urge, fueled by maternal instinct and fierce loyalty, began to stir. The next morning, Eleanor contacted the documentary producers. The conversation was difficult, emotional, and ultimately empowering. She wasn't just ready for the cameras to return. She was ready to command the narrative. Days later, the crew arrived, quieter than usual, their faces reflecting a mix of professional obligation and genuine sympathy. The familiar hum of equipment filled the house, a jarring sound in the hallowed silence. Yet Eleanor felt a strange sense of purpose. This wasn't about drama, it was about dignity. The first interview was excruciating. Eleanor sat on the sofa, the same spot where Caleb had often sprawled, lost in a book or sketching in his notebook. The lights were bright, the microphone a silent, expectant presence. She took a deep breath, picturing Caleb's face, drawing strength from his memory. "There's been a lot of speculation," she began, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands, "about Caleb's memorial service, about how our family is coping. And I feel it's important to set the record straight, not for the show, but for Caleb and for us." She paused, looking directly into the lens, as if speaking to every single viewer. Caleb was a private person, even though he grew up on camera. He valued authenticity and quiet moments. His memorial was exactly that, authentic and quiet. It wasn't a performance. It was a space for genuine grief, for shared memories, for us to say goodbye in a way that honored him. There was no discord, no drama, just profound shared sorrow and individual ways of processing an unimaginable loss. Eleanor spoke about the quiet beauty of the service, the small personal tributes, the shared tears and hushed laughter as they remembered Caleb's unique spirit. She acknowledged the immense pain, the days that felt like an uphill battle, but emphasized the underlying unity of their love for Caleb. She spoke of her own grief, raw and unvarnished, but also of the strength she found in her remaining children and in the enduring bonds of family. "Grief is not linear," she continued, her voice gaining confidence. "It's messy and individual. One person's quiet introspection isn't another's public breakdown, and neither is less valid. We are all hurting, but we are hurting together in our own ways. The narrative that there was a rift or a lack of care is simply untrue. It's a disrespectful fabrication that diminishes Caleb's memory and our family's very real pain." She spoke not with anger, but with an unwavering conviction, a quiet dignity that commanded attention. The producers listened, eyes fixed on her, recognizing the power of her unfiltered truth. This wasn't the usual reality TV fodder. This was raw, profound honesty. Over the next few days, Eleanor met individually with each of her children, encouraging them to share their own perspectives if they felt ready. Some did, speaking movingly of their brother, of the private moments they cherished, of the quiet strength they found in their unique family structure. Others chose to remain silent, their grief too personal for public consumption, and Eleanor respected that boundary fiercely. The process was cathartic, a way to reclaim not just the public narrative, but their own healing journey. By speaking their truth, they were not only honoring Caleb, but also strengthening their own bonds, facing the storm together. Then came the question everyone was waiting for, the inevitable pivot to the future. "Eleanor," the interviewer asked gently, "where do you go from here? After such a profound loss, after setting the record straight, what's next for the Vance family? For you?" Eleanor took a moment, gazing out the window at the distant mountains. their peaks dusted with the first snow of autumn. The silence in the house was different now. It still held the echoes of grief, but it was also beginning to fill with the soft hum of resilience, the quiet rhythm of life continuing. For a long time, she began, her voice softer, tinged with a newfound hope. Our story has been about navigating the complexities of our family structure, about living a less ordinary life. And for a while, it felt like our story ended with Caleb. It felt like the book closed. She turned back to the camera, a faint, resolved smile gracing her lips. But it hasn't. It's a new chapter, a different kind of chapter. It's about remembering, yes, but it's also about rebuilding. It's about finding joy again, even when the sorrow is still present. It's about living in a way that would make Caleb proud, by being authentic, by finding purpose. Eleanor paused, letting her gaze sweep across the living room, a space so full of memories. We're not going to pretend this hasn't changed us. It has, fundamentally, but it has also brought us closer in ways we didn't anticipate. We've learned that strength isn't about never falling. It's about getting back up, together. It's about finding light, even in the deepest shadows. She leaned forward, a spark in her eyes. So what's next for the Vance family? What's next for me? It's about healing, openly and honestly. It's about advocating for mental wellness, using our platform to help others who might be struggling in silence. It's about finding new passions, new ways to connect with each other and with the world. It's about a deeper, more profound journey into what it means to be a family, flaws and all, in the face of life's most challenging moments. Eleanor's smile widened, radiating a quiet strength. It's not going to be easy. Grief is a long road, but we are walking it together, and we're going to share that journey. Not just the edited highlights, but the messy, real, hopeful truth of it. This isn't the end of our story. It's just the beginning of a different one, a new season, if you will, focused on resilience, remembrance, and the enduring power of family. The cameras continued to roll, capturing the raw honesty, the quiet courage. Eleanor felt a lightness she hadn't experienced in weeks. The truth, spoken aloud, was a powerful balm. It didn't erase the pain, but it began to lift the heavy shroud of silence, allowing a sliver of light to pierce through. The world would see. They would finally see beyond the tears, to the enduring strength and love that held the Vance family together, even in their deepest sorrow, as they stepped cautiously but resolutely into their new, unscripted season.